Yo, you know what's so crazy? Because you come from a black family.
Yep.
And you live down the block from your maternal grandparents. It's so interesting that the debating part was encouraged, because usually in black families, they don't want no back and forth.
Nah.
Usually your mama, she's quick with that slap. You go back and forth with the grown folks, and you're from the South. Typically, it's okay, you're a child, stay in the child's place.
Yeah, you couldn't go back and you couldn't go back and forth if they told you to go do something. But it was like the conversations were about topical things and the Bible and what God means for us to do. And the guy said, my maternal grandfather, we called him Papa, was no joke. Papa first of all, had spiritual gifts. I'm talking about gift of healing, gift of prophecy, all of that. And my grandfather used to go at it and swing on the priests. Now, mind you, Catholics, for the most part, Catholics are not, you're not raised to, you don't know how many books of the Bible. You ain't quoting scripture. My grandfather knew the word backwards and forward, okay? God came to him in a dream and gave him the gift of healing and prophecy. And dude, I experienced it. I'm talking about, when I say experienced it, I experienced being extremely sick and him praying over me. And 30 minutes later, I was up. I had a birthday party. My brother and I 1 year, 1 day apart. And so it was a birthday party. I forgot what number. And I might have been 12, 13, something like that. I've been sick all day, literally couldn't stand up. My mom took us shopping. I stayed in the car. I lay on the back seat. They moved the party from a rec center to the house because I was so sick. My mama called me to the bedroom. She said, "Hey, Papa's on the phone." And I'm talking about, dude, I couldn't move. I couldn't get out of bed. I was just, my whole body was racked with pain. And I never forget, my grandfather said, "Baby, how you doing?" I said, "Not doing well." He said, "Put the phone in your left hand and put your right hand over your heart." And that was a prayer that God gave him when he was a child. And he says the prayer. I could not hear him making out the words because he kept it very low. And he said, "Now go back in the bed. You'll be fine." Straight up. 30 minutes later, got dressed, walked into the kitchen where the party was going on. There's a photo too of me. There's a photo from that night. And I walked in, and my dad could not believe it. And my dad was like, "What in the world happened?" And my mom said, "I called Papa." Straight up. And I'm talking about, I was sick the entire day. I'm talking about 12, 14 hours, couldn't move, pain, everything. That prayer said over me, and I was up in 30 minutes. So my grandfather used to debate hard with the priests. So I witnessed that. So I grew up watching the emphasis on truth. And it was taken seriously. Facts were taken seriously. You couldn't come to the debate in our house and your stuff not be together, or I watched aunts and uncles get obliterated. So for me, early on, it was always have your stuff together. I remember I was in high school, man. I did 12th grade. No, yeah, 12th grade. Miss Joseph was my teacher. So she said, "No one can serve more than 8 years as president." I said, "That's not true." I said, "We have empirical data on that." And so we start arguing back and forth. And I was like, "I'm sorry, why are we arguing? You're wrong." I said, and she was like, "I am not wrong." I said, "We're in the middle class." I'm like, "You're wrong." I said, John F. Kennedy was killed on November 22nd, 1963. Lyndon B. Johnson became president that day. He ran for his own term in 1964. He chose not to run for re-election in 1968. That means that he would have served 8 years as president plus the 11 months as president after Kennedy got killed. I said, the data don't lie. Man, we had a test. I wrote down in there she was wrong. She lit me up. And I'll never forget, she was so mad. So we had these quizzes, and I think in that class I had like 102 average. we had these quizzes. My protest was I refused to answer any of the questions, and then I told her, "Oh, I guess it's gonna lower my grade to 101." Dude, she was hot, but she was wrong. So early on and in high school, I mean, I would go at it with teachers if I had the facts and you were teaching something that was fundamentally wrong. We would go at it because my deal is I don't care if you're the teacher if what you're saying is wrong. And so, man, that continued. So think about it. That was high school. So college and out of college, that's how I rolled. So, I debate hard. I debate it, and that's why people go, man, why you be interrupting folks on your show? Because if you lie, and this is really a fundamental thing for me. If you say something that is materially and factually false, I have to correct you because I cannot allow somebody who's watching or listening to hear something that is false, and then I say nothing. And because they can go, well, Roland said nothing, so clearly that must be true. No, I don't care what it is. We can be in the middle of a conversation, and if you say something that's false, I'll say, well, actually, that's not true. Because I can't let people walk around with something it's just fundamentally wrong. And so, and that's, to me, that's a problem that we have today, because we let things go that are simply wrong. And people are walking around and then they spout that or they repeat it. And so now you're repeating the lie. No, I can't allow that. So truth is truth. So we can argue opinion. We can argue what that means. What we're not going to do, we're not going to argue truth. We're not going to argue truth. I'm going to shut you down.
And you're good for that. God knows you are good for that. You will interject, and stand on your truth if it is the truth.
All day.